The state's attorney in the COP-TUAH case puts on a mind-numbing smoke and mirror show, making himself look like a complete clown while simultaneously proving himself to be worthy of the last name Fahey. Former Sergeant Joseph Gibson of the Oklahoma City Police Department has now transitioned from being just a bad cop who uses excessive force to being a murderer because his victim, Lich, has tragically passed away, and Mick Patel goes on a crusade against the state of Georgia, all on this week's episode of The Rebuttal. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer, and this is The Rebuttal. The Rebuttal is a monologue-style show where I discuss various updates or clarifying details about cases we've covered in the past, where maybe new information came out after the video, or we need to clear up a question from the comments, or whatever is needed, just sort of a slice update that doesn't warrant a full video. The first item on our docket for today is a discussion about COP-TUAH and the ongoing corruption that has become obviously attached to the state's attorney's office in Corrupticate. No surprise. Look, I'm very much a give me all the information and let me decide for myself type person. I don't generally buy into hype. I want facts and I want objective information, and I want to compare that with my own understanding, my life experience, my experience in the law, and I want to analyze that and make my own decision. This case is a perfect example of how I undertake that process, because I saw this video and I did my version of the analysis of it just solely in response to my audience asking for it. I did that without ever having met or talked to Sean Paul Reyes, without ever having discussed the matter with him or anyone associated with him. I did an entire analysis of the interaction that basically completely disagreed with both Sean Paul and the attorney that he had on his live stream discussing the case. I just saw it differently based on my reading of Connecticut law and my experience in life. And the reason that I know Sean Paul to be a quality person who truly does believe in accountability is that instead of coming at me or making a response or retaliation video arguing why he was right, he actually emailed me, asked me for consent to use my video, and then he put my entire video on his channel with the opening line that he was completely wrong about the charges. So he does care about objective truth and getting it right. And let's be honest, anyone who carries a camera around with them in their everyday job by choice and relies on it to tell the majority of the story believes in accountability. Just think about the people that we talk about on this channel every single week who carry a camera for a living, but not by choice, who obviously don't believe in truth and accountability. What do? Well, they mute the camera for any excuse they can come up with. When you ask for the information or the video footage, they redact it. They gatekeep the evidence. Sometimes they disappear the evidence. The point is, there is a noticeable difference in the conduct between the people who care about objective facts and the people who want to control the narrative as their paramount concern. All you have to do is pay attention. Now, all of that said, there were some really strange things that happened at the COP-TUAH hearing on his application for AR, or advanced rehabilitation, which is basically just Connecticut's version of diversion or a diversionary program. So I just want to lead with this. State's Attorney John Fahey very clearly conducted himself as a shill for the law enforcement community, police unions, law enforcement as an institution, the thin blue line, however you want to say it, Team Blue. He was disingenuous. He misled the court. And as much as he tried to use the canvas of the courtroom to paint the picture he wanted us to see, all I saw was low-level finger dipping in bullshit and painting it all over the place with minimal skill in the art of persuasion. Now, I will spend an entire video calling out this bullshit later in the week, but for now, suffice it to say that he treated Sean Paul's victim impact statement like it was a closing argument where he gets to say something else afterwards and have the last word. That's not generally how that works. And in so doing, he made a mockery of Sean Paul's status as a victim in this case. He went to great lengths to use the courtroom as a podium for a press conference that he didn't want to have. And he did that because he knew that no one could ask him tough questions in the courtroom. So he did it to use the courtroom as a stage for a press conference where he got to be the only person speaking. And he did that because he knew the judge would not ask tough questions because it literally had nothing to do with the judge. It was a way for him to be unilateral in his communication, say whatever he wanted to say. It was manipulative and disgusting, and we will not let it go. Believe me. The next item on the docket for the day is the very tragic news that the elderly victim of former Sergeant Joseph Gibson with the Oklahoma City Police Department has in fact passed away from his injuries. You may remember that in a previous episode of The Rebuttal, I mentioned that it had been reported that he was moved to hospice. At that time that I made that Rebuttal episode, I had reached out to the attorney who's filed a lawsuit on behalf of the Vu family, Devin Jacob, seeking an interview about the status of the case. Now, I never heard back from Mr. Jacob, but I did read that Mr. Jacob made the following quote in a recent article associated with reporting the death of Mr. Vu. Mr. Jacob said, "I urge members of the media and the public to continue to balance the importance of reporting this story with the reality that the Vu family has suffered a deeply personal loss. As such, neither the family nor I will be making any further statements or answering questions at this time. Thank you for respecting the family's privacy as they mourn." Now, I'm certainly not making the argument that Mr. Jacob didn't respond to my email or didn't respond to my invitation to have a conversation about this because he's not talking to media or not intending to talk about the case at all. It's just as likely that he just has no idea who I am. I'm certainly no one special, but it's at least plausible that he will not ever do an interview on this subject and on this channel. And so we just need to move on and talk about the case in ways that would be beneficial to our audience to understand the legalities and the forward posture of the case. And we'll move forward with any updates. And then if he ever writes me back or responds, then I'll certainly leave that invitation open for him to come on and talk about the case if he wants to. But there's a lot to unpack legally in this case, and it does warrant a complete update video. And I'll be working on that to produce it later in the week. First and foremost, City Council recently voted to pay for Gibson's legal defense team, despite the fact that he's no longer employed there. I'll explain why they did that and what excuse they're using to do that, but that'll be for another time. Number two, there's some discussion that Gibson should be charged with murder now that Mr. Vu has died. But that's legally an uphill climb, and I'll need a longer format to unpack why that's the case. And then third, there is obviously a political motivation to keep this quiet in light of the Attorney General Gentner Drummond's gubernatorial aspirations. So I'll need to have the time to be surgical in filleting him publicly and showing a pretty ironic disparity in his positional shifts in this case as compared to his position on some of his prior opinions that he's rendered as the Attorney General. So watch that video later in the week as well. For now, I'd just like to share my condolences with the family of Mr. Vu and pray for their peace during this very difficult time. On to the final matter on the docket for the day, and that is Mahendra Mick Patel. I know you guys loved watching this interview. He is very charming, he's very charismatic, and he's just a good person. He has begun his crusade to bring about change in the state of Georgia. Now, when I recorded the interview with Mr. Patel, I did not know what amount he was going to file a lawsuit for. I didn't want to have him say anything prematurely for an interview that might be aired before he filed it. And so I was trying to hedge a little bit and be considerate to his legal position when I put out the video while still being able to put out truthful information. But before the video even published, he actually filed a lawsuit for $25 million against the city of Acworth. And he's asked me to ask you guys to consider signing his change.org petition. He's not asking for money. He doesn't need or want financial support. What he's looking for is to be able to change laws in Georgia and to be able to make the system more fair so that no one has to endure what he had to endure in the face of a false allegation. So if you don't mind, it doesn't cost you a thing. Please look for the link in the description of the video. Fill out the form and sign the petition to show your support publicly for Mr. Patel. Please also note that the way change.org petitions work, if you've never signed one, is that they will suggest that you make a monetary donation after you sign it, and they'll be fairly persistent about it. Number one, Mr. Patel is not asking for or receiving monetary donations. And number two, you are not required to donate. And if you did, he would get none of the proceeds. So just sign and share in whatever capacity you feel compelled to. They'll send you an email. You'll have to confirm your email address, and that'll be the end of it. As a final note, I just want to put this up on the screen. One of the commenters on the change.org petition made a comment that I feel warrants a response. Mick didn't tell me to do this. I'm taking it upon myself, but this is the way I genuinely feel. The person listed their name as Alex Jordanton, and he says, I am Patel, and I've learned one harsh truth in this country. Don't help anyone. Even if someone is dying in front of you, don't intervene, because trying to do the right thing can cost you everything. The only thing I'll say is that Mick Patel believes in being the bigger person. He came right on this channel, and he explained that regardless of what he has or could have lost, his heart could never be redirected away from helping his fellow human being. So anyone who claims that they are Patel and simultaneously claims to have learned the lesson of hardening their heart in response to the needs of their fellow human being simply because they might lose everything as a result has not learned one single thing from Mick Patel. And he may be Patel, but he is not the same as Mick Patel. Because I can tell you that I believe with 100% certainty that Mick Patel would do this all over again and double the pain if it meant just for that moment that he got to keep a baby from being injured from falling from their mother's lap. So just remember, if these are the types of lessons that you're choosing to learn from these situations, and I say choosing because, look, guys, you can see anything you want to see in a given situation. You can choose to find positivity. You can choose to find negativity. It really is a choice. And if you're choosing to learn these types of lessons, like the one articulated by Mr. Jordanton, I would just suggest to you this. It is important that you reflect on the possibility that you are closed off to the potential to learn new things because you've convinced yourself that you already know all of the things you need to know. We are all pissed off over this. Anybody who's heard about this case is pissed off about it. And absolutely no one more than Mick Patel. So our only duty is to follow his lead, not to try and manipulate and reappropriate his mission into something that it's not. He wants to use the power of our collective voices to push for change in the institutions that are to blame for causing his harm, not to further punish or potentially punish the children who may later become potential subjects of that same institution. And it would be an absolute travesty to take his mission and convert it into some negativity that isn't what he wants to try to find in this. So in the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, thank you guys for supporting my channel. I had a fantastic time in Las Vegas with my family last week. Here are a few photos from our trip. We had a lovely dinner at Wolfgang Puck's Cut restaurant inside the Venetian. I highly recommend that you check that out if you ever get a chance. We took in a show. We saw a few museum-style exhibits, including the Bodies exhibit, which I had seen before. If you ever get a chance to see the Bodies exhibit inside the Luxor, it is absolutely fascinating. We crossed into Arizona, though nowhere close to Phoenix because we value our lives. We did that in order to do some kayaking on the Colorado River. That was absolutely beautiful. We walked the strip. We had a great time together, just being together for the week. Now, if you followed my channel and you know my origin story, you know that both me and my wife have basically no family outside of some distant relatives. Our parents are both deceased, as are our grandparents. We're pretty much alone in the world. She has two siblings. I have one sibling. But basically, our core family unit is us and our children and their spouses. Our family is small, but it is everything to us. So thank you guys for indulging me and supporting the channel by watching the interviews of both Otto and Mick last week. We're back to normal content this week. We're cruising into the holidays so we can close out 2025 with a bang. I hope to get to 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year and 5,000 followers on both Facebook and TikTok. Speaking of that, please sign up for the socials using your phone to scan the link on the screen. You can join on a paid tier of our Substack community if you want to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. I don't put anything on these platforms that people have to pay for. If you don't want to follow us to other platforms, but you'd like to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Remember that only about 10% of the people who watch the channel are actual subscribers, and it doesn't make any difference monetarily, but it sure does look like a larger group when people come onto the channel and see how many subscribers you have. It does matter in showing your support and showing that you stand with us when we take a position on these causes. But again, check out some of the other videos on the channel. Leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.